Thank you very much, Dave. Now, on the bio introduction I sent over, it was supposed to include a link to our wedding registry. I noticed you didn't mention. Notice that wasn't included. No, thank you very much, and I am very excited to be back here, the church where I grew up, as always. I wanted to start by telling a story. When I was in college, we had this friend, me and my buddies, we had this friend named Alan. And Alan's thing was he liked to cheat at board games and cards or whatever it was we would play. He would cheat at whatever it was. And this was like his thing. And so we'd play Monopoly, and he'd wait for everyone to get distracted and look away. And he'd casually reach over into the box, grab a fistful of the $100 playing money, and he'd put it in his pile, and he'd just keep going on like nothing happened. Very casual, very good at cheating. And whenever we would inevitably catch Alan cheating, whenever we'd catch him doing this, we'd say, "Hey, Alan, did you just cheat?" And he would say, "Busted," and then he'd just put his money or whatever he cheated and stole back, and then he'd just keep playing like nothing had happened. And that was Alan. And I want to make it clear, Alan viewed this as a fun quirk about himself. Whenever he would always, this is what he would always say. I'll never forget this. He would say, "Guys, I'm not this is what he said. I'm a cheater. I'm not dishonest, okay? If you catch me and you call me out, I'll fess up and I'll put what I did, I'll undo whatever I did to cheat. I'm not dishonest. I'm a cheater." All right, are you guys writing this down? Yeah, so that's how Alan was. And again, we didn't have anyone to play with, and most of the games we always ended up needing an extra person, and so we just dealt with it. We'd play and deal with Alan's version of cheating. Well, on the occasion when Alan would win, of course, whenever he would win, the first thing everyone would say is, "Hey, Alan, did you cheat? Is that how you won? Did you cheat?" And he would always get so bent out of shape. "Well, no, of course I didn't cheat. Why do I even play with you guys? Every single time I win something, the first thing you do is ask me if I cheat. You guys are not good friends. I don't even know why I play with you." And it's like, whoa, Alan, you brought this on yourself. You openly cheat at games. How can you get bent out of shape when someone accuses you of cheating? And so, I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like this. I doubt you have an Alan, a board game cheater in your life. But if you've ever been in a situation like this, where someone brings it on themselves, whatever it is they're doing, however it is they're acting or treating other people, they bring it on themselves, and then they get bent out of shape and act like it's ridiculous when someone is suspicious of them. Or maybe when someone is a bit rude to them based on how they've been rude to other people. And whatever the situation is, they bring it on themselves, and then they don't understand why they get treated in such a way. And so maybe if you've experienced this, this will help you understand, because this is an idea we will hopefully come back to later tonight. But the title for tonight is Jacob, the Wrestling Deceiver. And so what the lesson is going to look like and how we're going to spend our time is we're going to look at 3 key accounts in the life of Jacob. And I'll comment on them as we go. But what we are trying to see is exactly how Scripture is portraying Jacob, the type of person that he is, and what are the implications of Jacob's character as portrayed in Scripture. Both the implications on Jacob's story and the implications on us and our own lives. So if you have your Bibles, you can turn to Genesis chapter 25, starting in verse 24. If you don't want to follow along in your own Bibles, it will be on the screen behind me. But Genesis 25, starting in verse 24. So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, and he was like a hairy garment all over, so they called his name Esau. Afterwards his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. And so the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field. But Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, and Rebekah loved Jacob. Okay, so we are introduced to these two brothers, Esau and Jacob, right here at the beginning. And some important info here is that Esau is the oldest, even though probably by just a few moments, he is the older twin brother. He has red hair, and he's a man of the field. He works with his hands outside. He's hairy. And Jacob is sort of the opposite of this. Jacob is the one who stays inside where it's cool and apparently hangs out with his mom here, is what Genesis tells us. And so now really the most important, those are all important details. The most important detail to understand here is that because Esau is the older brother, he gets the birthright. And yeah, that's on the screen right now. The birthright gets you 3 key things. The first of which is when dad dies, you get double the inheritance. Okay, so and this is a fun exercise I do with my youth group. We put like a math problem on. It's like a math problem. If so-and-so has this many descendants and this person has the birthright, what percentage does he get? And it's a fun exercise for the youth group. So he gets double the inheritance. And so when Isaac dies, Esau will get 66% of the inheritance, and Jacob will only get 33%. So that's a pretty significant thing right there. Just by being a few moments older, you get a lot more money when dad passes. Okay, so that's the first thing it gets you. Secondly is it gets you to be judge over the family. And so this is a bit more abstract than the first thing you get. However, it's still a pretty important thing because the person with the birthright, the judge of the family, gets to be the decision maker for all the important decisions in the family. Gets to settle disputes, gets to delineate whatever it is, gets to make decisions as whether or not the family is going to move or not move, and everything in between. The person who is judge gets to decide. And so that's an important thing there as well. And third and finally, it comes with this idea of blessing, divine blessing from God. And I'm not exactly sure what blessing is precisely, but I can tell you this. It was seen as the best part of the deal. The birthright coming with this divine blessing, this idea that God would bless you throughout the remainder of your life and make you succeed in whatever that might look like. This was seen as the most profound and valuable part of this birthright. And so we're going to see a bit more of that later in a different passage. But let's read on in chapter 25, verse 29. Now Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Jacob, "Please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary." Therefore his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright as of this day." And Esau said, "Look, I am about to die, so what is this birthright to me?" Then Jacob said, "Swear to me as of this day." And so he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and stew of lentils. Then he ate and drank, arose, and went his way. And thus Esau despised his birthright. And this is just classic younger brother antics right here. "Oh, you're real hungry? Here, I got some stew for you. Sell me your most valuable possession, and I'll give you this. Sell it to me." And when I was in college, again, we had a curfew. Harding University, Christian College, they all have curfews. Midnight. After midnight, you could not get in or out of the dorm. They would like magnetically seal the doors shut. It was not possible to get in or out of the dorm. And so at midnight, couldn't get out no matter what. And well, one night on the weekend, I was pretty hungry, and it was after curfew. And so I said to myself, man, I said this out loud actually, I'd pay $100 for a nice pizza right now, right? And that's what I said, didn't think anything of it, I just said it. My roommate's head perks up, and he takes out his phone, and he types something, and then he just goes back to doing whatever. I noticed it, didn't think anything of it. Well, 15 minutes later, my roommate gets up and rushes out the door without saying a word, comes back in 2 minutes later, and you will not believe what's in his hands. A pizza, yeah, a warm Papa John's pepperoni pizza. And he says, I have no idea how he did this, but I don't know how he pulled it off. "Here, Nick, give me $100. And I said, "How'd you get this?" "So it doesn't matter. You want it? Give me $100, he says. And I looked at him, I said, "Are you serious?" And he said, "No, I'm not serious. You're my friend. I'll give it to you for 90. And I looked at him, I was like, my mouth is, I'm salivating. I'm legitimately very, very hungry at this point, and I'm like, I don't have $90 cash to give you. And he says, you can cash at me. I said, no, I'm not paying $90 for a pizza, okay? I'm a college student. And he said, okay. And he sat down on his bed, and he started eating it in front of me. Oh, Nick, it's so good. You sure you don't want? And to this day, I don't know how he got it through Harding's airtight security, dorm room security, that is. I suspect he put the notes for the delivery, come to the window and hand it to me through. But we were on the second floor, so actually there's no way that's what happened. It doesn't matter. The point is this. It was a pretty lame thing for my roommate to do, okay? To try and leverage the ability to circumvent the rules as a way to make money off your poor roommate, right? And again, it's a silly situation. It doesn't really matter. But just so we're clear, the right thing to do is say, hey, Nick, if you're hungry, I can show you how to get a pizza. If you're really that hungry, I'm your friend, I'll help you. Well, the right thing to do is probably not to break the rules at all. But this situation with Jacob is the pizza situation times 1,000 on a much grander scale. Esau is not just hungry. He's exhausted, and he seems to believe that if he doesn't eat right now, he's going to keel over and die. So I imagine he's being a bit melodramatic when he says that. But the fact is that Jacob saw this as an opportunity to make a trade instead of a chance to help his brother. And that says a lot about who Jacob is as a person. He saw this as an opportunity to take advantage of someone rather than to serve and to help someone. I mean, how many people in here wouldn't feed their sibling if their sibling was hungry and you had food to give them? And as I say that, people are probably thinking, yeah, I wouldn't give my sibling anything. No, seriously, you wouldn't give your brother or sister food if they asked and were hungry? And I like that analogy. But, a lot of preachers, they'll use this as a way to say siblings messing with each other. I like that analogy. But guys, the bottom line is what Jacob did here was wrong. He leveraged his brother's desperation and hunger in order to back him into a corner and manipulate him and take advantage of him and force him to make a life-altering decision. This is predatory and wrong. And this is a great snapshot of who Jacob is, just at this very first account in his life. He is a manipulative, deceitful, and selfish person. Let's look at another account right now. Genesis, just one page over, Genesis 27, starting in verse 1. Now it came to pass when Isaac was old and his eyes were dim that he could not see, and that he called Esau, his older son, and said to him, my son. And he answered him, here I am. And then he said, behold, now I am old, I do not know the day of my death. Now therefore, please take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. And make me savory food such as I love, and bring it to me that I might eat, and that my soul may bless you before I die. And so again, this concept, this abstract concept of blessing comes up. This time, Isaac, a human, is going to bestow a blessing on his oldest son, Esau, before he dies. And again, I don't really understand this abstract concept of blessing. It's as if this person of influence is going to invoke good fortune upon someone and for the remainder of their life. And again, that seems kind of superstitious and a little silly to me. I won't lie to you. But I'm sure there's much more to it that. But that's what this is. This is a very valuable, it's seen as very valuable thing. We know that this blessing is valuable because Jacob went out of his way to take it from Esau in the beginning, and now, as we're about to see here, he's going to try and steal this blessing as well. So let's read on. This is a bigger chunk, about 20 verses. Verse 5, now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to Esau, his son. And Isaac went to the field to hunt game and to bring it. So Rebekah spoke to Jacob, her son, saying, indeed, I heard your father speaking to Esau, your brother, saying, bring me game and make savory food for me, that I may eat it and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to what I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me from there 2 choice kids of the goats, and I will make savory food from them for your father, such as he loves. Then you shall take it to your father, that he may eat it, and that he may bless you before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, Look, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth-skinned man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be a deceiver to him, and I shall bring a curse on myself and not a blessing. Now, I do want to stop and point this out. It's pretty ironic that Jacob understands what will happen if he's found out as a deceiver here. But let's read on. I will bring a curse and not a blessing. But his mother said to him, Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go get them for me. And he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory food, such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the choice clothes of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. She put the skins of the kids of the goats on the hands and on the smooth part of his neck. Then she gave the savory food and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. So he went to his father and said, My father. And he said, Here I am. Who are you, my son? Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done just as you told me. Please, arise, sit and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me. But Isaac said to his son, How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord your God brought it to me. Isaac said to Jacob, Please come near that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. So I guess Jacob didn't bother to hide his own voice in this elaborate scheme he's pulled off. The voice is Jacob's, the hands are the hands of Esau. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. Then he said, Are you really my son Esau? He said, I am. He said, Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's game, so that my soul may bless you. So he brought it near to him, and he ate. And he brought them wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, Come near now and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his clothing, and blessed him and said, Surely the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed. Therefore may God give you of the dew of heaven, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let peoples serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brethren, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those who bless you. And like I said, Jacob and his mother, as we saw just play out, they hatched this plot to steal this blessing from Isaac. And while Esau is out hunting, Jacob and his mother, they go and they put goat's hair on his hands and on his neck to make him seem hairy. They make him food. They bring it before Isaac. And he says, Isaac, it's me, your son Esau. Can I have the blessing you promised me? And he's a little suspicious at first. But ultimately, this plan works. And Isaac, as we just read, blesses Jacob under the guise thinking he is his oldest son, Esau. And we can pause here again and take a look at another snapshot of Jacob's character. In order to get what he wants, he deceives. And he takes advantage. Specifically here, he takes advantage of the fact that his father is blind and old. And he manipulates every single person around him with little to no regard for the consequences. I mean, he stole this blessing. This is more than stealing your older brother's Christmas present. This is a life-altering decision that Jacob has made and gone through with because of his lust for what he wanted. And I say, no regard for consequences. Let's look at the next few verses here. Sorry, I know this is a lot of reading, but it's the Bible, so yeah. Now it happened as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. He also had made savory food and brought it to his father, and said to his father, Let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that your soul may bless me. And his father Isaac said to him, Who are you? And he said, I'm your son, your firstborn Esau. Then Isaac trembled exceedingly and said, "Who? Where is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate all of it before you came, and I have blessed him, and indeed he shall be blessed." When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry. And he said to his father, "Bless me, me also, O father." But he said, "Your brother came with deceit and has taken away your blessing." And Esau said, "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and now look, he has taken away my blessing." And he said, "Have you not reserved a blessing for me?" Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Indeed, I have made him master in all of his brethren. I have given to him as servants. With grain and wine I have sustained him. What shall I do for you now, my son?" Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, "Behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth and the dew of the heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. And it shall come to pass, when you become restless, that you shall break his yoke from your neck." Isaac and Esau are freaking out in the wake of what Jacob has done here. They're panicking over the fact that Jacob has usurped this blessing. Son, what can I do for you? How can I help? What can I do? Can you give me a blessing? I already gave it to Jacob. I'm sorry. And there's weeping and sorrow. It says he cried with a bitter cry. This is what comes in the wake of Jacob's decision to seize what he wants through whatever means necessary. He robs his brother and his poor old blind father. This is who Jacob is, a manipulative, deceitful jerk who takes advantage and hurts others in order to get what he wants. All right, let's look at the third passage here, Genesis chapter 29. So Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of people in the east. And he looked and saw a well in the field, and behold, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks. A large stone was on the well's mouth. Now all the flocks would be gathered there, and they would roll the stone from the well's mouth, water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. And Jacob said to them, "My brethren, where are you from?" And they said, "We are from Haran." Then he said to them, "Do you know Laban, the son of Nahor?" And they said, "We know him." So he said to them, "Is he well?" And they said, "He is well, and look, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep." Then he said, "Look, it is still high day. It is not time for the cattle to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go feed them." But they said, "We cannot until all the flocks are gathered together, and they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep." Now while he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's relative and that he was Rebekah's son. So he ran and told her father. It came to pass, when Laban heard the report about Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to the house. So he told Laban all these things, and Laban said to him, "Surely you are my bone and my flesh." And he stayed with him for a month. And so I'm sure most of us know this story of Jacob and Laban and Leah and Rachel, and I'm sure you now see the point of where this story is going. Jacob hits it off with Rachel, Laban's daughter, and he's allowed to stay with Laban. And Jacob is seemingly thinking, well, I'm going to try and talk my way into marrying Rachel, this man Laban's daughter, because I think I'm pretty interested, and this is what I want. Verse 15. Then Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what should your wages be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were delicate, but Rachel, whatever that means, yeah. But Rachel was beautiful of form and appearance. Now Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, "I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." And Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than I should give her to another man." Stay with me." And so Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed only a few days to him because of the love he had for her. And so one thing leads to another, and Jacob strikes a deal, secures a deal to work for 7 years to marry Rachel, the woman he loves. Yeah? Not a bad deal, huh? Verse 21 here. Jacob says to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go into her." And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. And now it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. And Laban gave his maid Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a maid. So it came to pass in the morning that, behold, it was Leah, and he said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Was it not Rachel that I served you for? Why then have you deceived me?" And that last line is really the best line in this whole account. "You deceived me. How could you?" Jacob, you know good and well what it takes to deceive a family member, don't you? And now that is what has happened to you. You wanted to marry Rachel, and Laban, I don't know, to be honest, I don't know how he pulled this off. I don't know how you didn't notice that wasn't Rachel you were marrying, but he pulled it off. He has deceived Jacob. Verse 26, and Laban said, "It must not be done so in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give you this one also for the service, which you will serve me with me still another 7 years." And Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, so he gave him his daughter Rachel as a wife also. And Laban gave his maid Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as a maid. Then Jacob also went into Rachel, and he also loved Rachel more than Leah. He served with Laban still another 7 years. And so Laban makes it pretty clear here to us why he did this. He doesn't really care if Jacob is married to one or both or neither of his daughters. He wanted 7 years of free work out of this. And that's really all it was. And here we can pause for our next snapshot, because Jacob gets a taste of his own medicine here in this account from his kinsman Laban. I mean, Jake, you spent your whole life deceiving others, even the ones closest to you. Actually, especially the one closest to you. Yeah. And that's how you've gotten ahead in life. That's how you've gotten to where you are today, is by deceiving and manipulating others. And now, the bill has come due. You have been victimized in the same way or in the same manner that you made a habit of victimizing others. And I can't help but pause and make this point about the whole situation. I hope you find these readings interesting, but this is really how this applies to us. When you take advantage of other people, when you manipulate other people, you invite taking advantage of and manipulation of yourself. That's just how the world works. When you deceive others, you're asking to be deceived. And unfortunately, it doesn't stop there. When you hate other people, you invite hatred upon yourself. When you are bitter or resentful towards another person, people are inevitably going to be very quick to be bitter and resentful towards you. When you're rude or impatient, when you gossip, when you make light of others' situation, when you act infantile and capricious and mean, people are going to, and get this, see you as rude, impatient, infantile, capricious, and mean. And others are going to return that sentiment to you tenfold. When you align your values and your behaviors, and specifically the way you treat other people outside of the characteristics of Christ, and I want to be clear, everything I just listed is outside of the characteristics of Christ. You make for yourself a bed of misery and apathy. And you invite others to treat you as such. And maybe they shouldn't. You shouldn't return evil with evil. But that's not the reality of how people work, is it? This is on full display in Jacob's account. Manipulation and deceit brings about more manipulation and more deceit. And that may be discouraging to you today if you're here and that's sort of your go-to way of dealing with people. And believe me, I understand, because it's the easy way out. If people are frustrating to you and you just want to be frustrated right back, or if you manipulate or disparage others to get ahead, or if you're like my friend Alan and you like to cheat at games, you bring this on yourself. And I know that may be a tough pill to swallow sometimes. But the encouraging part, if I may offer this, is that the opposite of this is true also. When you put on love and patience and kindness, people will respond to you with love and patience and kindness. When you are the type of person who can be seen as sincere towards others, people will be quick to respond with sincerity to you. When you're understanding of others, when you meet people where they are at, people will notice and return the favor to you. And so I do want to make the point here that this is beyond the simple fact that this will make your life better. If you will learn not to respond rudely or be frustrated or bitter, if you'll learn to be patient and loving, you will see better results in how you interact with people. Not only will this yield better results, when you take off deceit and fear and hate and manipulation, you create an economy of goodwill in your communities. So let me ask you this. What is better for the culture of a church? A community where people are bitter and taken advantage of, and they take advantage of others. And so the only way to deal with people is to be suspicious of their motivations or of other factors. I mean, can you imagine if when you were at church and someone came up and offered you something? Hey, I've got these extra tickets to this thing. Would you like them for you and your wife? Can you imagine if at church you had to say, well, what's the catch? You know, are you gonna ask me to do something to pay this back? Well, why are you doing? Can you imagine if in your church community you had to be suspicious of another person's goodwill? Is that healthy for a church? Is that healthier, or is a healthier option a community that trusts each other? And these principles are true of every system, not just a church, but your work environment. Your neighborhood, the people at your gym, your old friends from college, your relatives during the holidays. Whatever it is, when you treat people with goodwill, you will find goodwill returned to you. Let's go to this final passage that I want to look at. Let's see how we're doing on time. Ooh, got to pick it up here. Genesis 32, verses 22 through 32. And he arose that night and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed over the ford of Jabbok. He took them, sent them over the brook, and sent over what he had. Then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. Now when he saw that he did not prevail against him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaks." But he said, and this is Jacob, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And so he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Then he said, "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have struggled with God and with men and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked, saying, "Tell me your name, I pray." And he said, "Why is it that you ask about my name?" And he blessed him there. And so Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Just as he crossed over Penuel, the sun rose on him, and he limped on his hip. Therefore, to this day, the children of Israel do not eat the muscle that shrank, which is on the hip socket, because he touched the socket of Jacob's hip in the muscle that shrank. And so if you're hoping for me to give you an interpretation of the passage of Jacob wrestling with God, I'm afraid you're going home disappointed because I don't know exactly what's going on here in Scripture. But for the purpose of our study, that doesn't really matter, because this passage serves as a transformational moment for Jacob, both in his relationship with God and his relationship with others, specifically his brother Esau. So in context, Jacob is at a camp, and he sees his brother Esau with 400 men marching towards him. And Jacob assumes what you and I would have probably assumed in his position. My brother Esau is coming to pay me back for the injustice that I've done to him. He's going to come kill me. And so he's sweating, he's feeling guilty all night, he's worried, he thinks his doom is coming, and he's figuratively wrestling with the sinful, manipulative decisions he's made his whole life, and then he's literally wrestling with God here. And Jacob wants a blessing from God, and he's wrestling with him, attempting to get what he wants. And the ending of this account is that he leaves permanently changed, both spiritually and physically. At the end of this account, Esau and Jacob make up, and Esau runs to him and embraces him. And from then on, Jacob puts aside his own self-interests and his manipulation, and he seeks to serve God and others. And from this perspective, Jacob is no longer a wrestling deceiver. Rather, he is one who has wrestled with God and walked away permanently changed. And this is true of us as humans. We will wrestle with God and we will demand blessing. We will ask or seek for our own will to be done. We'll demand permission from God to do what we want, likely for our own selfish or personal reasons. But ultimately, and this is what I want you to understand, it is impossible to walk away from an encounter with God without having our character permanently changed and permanently made more like the character of Christ. And so despite whatever our mistakes are in the past, however selfish or manipulative we have been, God has the power to permanently change us and to change our hearts. And I should say, God and God alone has the power to soften our hearts and permanently change us. And so, what do I want you to take from this reading, all of these verses we've read of Jacob's account? You should pray and ask God to soften your heart, because only He can soften your heart towards change. And because I am willing to bet that you aren't perfect. And I'm also willing to bet that you, like Jacob, and maybe like our friend Alan, are maybe a bit ignorant of the areas of your life where you are not perfect. You don't even know that there is a part of your character that falls short of the glory of God. And how you deal with others and how you deal with anything. You may be unaware that there is a part of your character that falls short of the glory of God. And this is the message of Jacob's account and life. To humbly acknowledge our flaws of our character and to ask God to bless us by softening our hearts towards change. And so if you're here tonight, I encourage you to pray and to ask God to soften your heart, to take you from being a wrestling deceiver, a wrestling addict, a wrestling abuser, a wrestling fill in the blank with whatever it is where you have fallen short, and to ask God to make you one who has wrestled with God and has walked away permanently changed. And if you're here today, if you need to make the decision to come forward to put on Christ in baptism, to speak with one of the shepherds of this congregation, or to ask for prayers or guidance or whatever it is you might need tonight, I encourage you to do so as we stand and sing.